Hello and welcome back to Brojo Online number 24. And today we're going to be talking about a special social thing called kingdom building. Now, kingdom building is all about bringing a new methodology to the way you socialize so that you're meeting more high quality people more often. And in particular, learning how to turn everyday events that you usually wouldn't qualify as social into potential connection opportunities. So we're going to be looking at that today. We're going to be looking at what I learned from witnessing the most sort of socially competent people and how you can apply that to your life. So what is kingdom building? I'd like to start by telling you a little story. And the story was one of my claim to fame type moments. I got to hang out with a couple of members from the band Korn. Now, I was 18, 19, maybe a little older. I can't remember actually when this happened, but I'd been a big Korn fan since I was a little kid. You know, I was obsessed with them ever since the age of about 13 or so. And we went to go watch them in concert. And we watched them in concert, and we were there with a couple of girls. Well, we just met a couple of girls there. We didn't really know them. And this guy came out of nowhere and kind of took the girls away. We thought nothing of it. Later on, the girls came back and they had this sticker on their dress. And the sticker, basically, they'd been pulled backstage by a roadie, one of Korn's sort of entourage, and been given the address to where Korn was staying. Long story short, we went back to this address, and here we actually found Korn. Now, the guitarist in particular, Monkey, at that time he was single and he was quite interested in the girls we were with. And he thought that we were kind of with them. So he invited us kind of begrudgingly to come out and party with them. Now, make no mistake, it wasn't like, oh my God, you guys are awesome. Can you please party with us? There was nothing like that. He just wanted the girls we were with. But we were going to take that free offer for sure. Now, the reason I'm bringing up this story is because of what happened next. We were taken to what's called the Pony Club in Auckland, and it's a club that tries to be exclusive. You know, there's always a long line outside. It's where the minor sort of C-level celebrities go to drink and so on. And it's usually just filled with, you know, the kind of standard high-status plastic people, as I like to think of them. And we went there. The Korn had sent their entourage ahead of them to like clear the way. So by the time we showed up, the queue had been pushed aside for us to all walk through. I'd never seen anything quite like it. I'd never been given that kind of celebrity experience before. Now everybody assumed that we were some way part of the band just because we were in the group, and we actually put on American accents to heighten the illusion. And so we're let into this club, and people bought us drinks out of nowhere. We didn't have to buy any drinks. We were allowed to, back then I smoked cigarettes, and we were allowed to smoke inside, even though that had been previously banned. Halfway through walking in, people were just staring at us. You know, one girl actually tried to get me to suck her toes. I'm not kidding. Just because of, I guess, this kind of status that we were given as we walked in. And I was just amazed by it. I was watching this whole thing going, why is this happening like this? Why are we getting this treatment? We're not even... The thing is with the Korn guys is we knew who they were. We were big fans, but none of the people at this club did. I mean, their concert was that night. So all the people at this club hadn't been at the concert. They obviously weren't kind of true fans, you know. And yet, just because of the way we were treated, we got instant, massive social status at this place. I remember looking up and seeing two really pretty girls just sit on the guitarist's lap and start making out with him without a clue as to who he was. Without a clue. And that's when I realized that I was witnessing something about social dynamics. I was witnessing something happen where status was being given to people simply because of the way they were already being treated by others and because of the way we behaved. Without feeling special, feeling like we were the kings, the way we behaved actually really opened people up to wanting to know us. Now, you could look at this as something that you could deconstruct and use in a manipulative fashion. You can pretend to be a celebrity, so to speak, and use this to generate that so-called social status. But the way I looked at it is I looked at how could I recreate this in a healthy connection type way. Or at least later on, that's how I looked at it. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about what began with that experience, that wonderful night out with Corn, where I saw what could happen when you're famous, is actually how do you create that experience without needing to be famous, without needing to get anything, without being needy at all, just from being social. So what is kingdom building? Kingdom building is about creating places, locations around your local area where you are the king. And I don't mean that you are better than other people, but that you are so well known when you go there that it feels like coming home. That for you to walk in the door is an event. And what this can do for your social life, what this can do for meeting new people. It's about taking a well-known place for you, a place you're regularly going to be visiting, and settling in there to make it your social connection practice field, the place where you are going to practice connecting with people. And in doing so, create a kingdom. Now, why would we do this? Let me just take a drink real quick. Essentially, one of the biggest issues that I see people facing when it comes to socializing is this discomfort of being out of place. You notice if you're hosting an event, if you're having a party at your house, or you're simply home, you created a dinner where you invited all the guests, anything like that, where you're the host, you feel so much more comfortable than in other social situations, don't you? It's so much easier for you to connect with others. It's easy for you to lead compared to usual. Whereas if you were to be a guest at one of these events, all the typical social discomfort comes up. And what I realized in this is that this is entirely in your mind. To be the host or to be the guest is just a role that you've created inside your head. There's no actual physical difference between the two. If you are inside a building socializing, it doesn't really matter what you are. But the role you give yourself in your mind will make a huge difference as to how comfortable and socially confident that you feel in that moment. So when it comes to kingdom building, the reason we do this is to create as many areas as possible where you feel like you're home, simply to remove the mental barrier that comes up when you think that you're not home, which is again just an illusion. You think about it, let's say you come home from a hard day's work and you finally walk in the door and you're just like, here I am, I'm back, I'm home. And you go into your lounge and your flatmates have a new friend around. You notice how different you feel in that situation compared to if you were to go to someone else's house as a guest. When you see this new person in your house, you're like, hey, how's it going? Who are you? There's no kind of trying to impress them or please them. I mean, you're home. Unless, of course, you have massive social anxiety, which I know some of you do. Compare that to when you're going into someone else's house and you see someone you don't know. The difference it feels, and yet all it is meeting a new person that you don't know inside of a building. Contextually, really nothing's that different. So when we create kingdoms, when we create places where you feel socially comfortable, the most real version of you is going to be able to come out. You're going to be able to connect with people a lot easier. So think of this as a training wheels tool, which you can eventually use to break down the belief that being in different situations actually makes a difference with socializing. The idea is one day everywhere feels like home. Can you imagine just for a second if you were socializing and everywhere felt like you were at home? What difference that would make to your ability to relax, open up, connect with people, show who you really are, and not have to try and impress. Right? So kingdoms are designed to make everywhere feel like home, and they're your practice ground. When you don't have to worry about getting the environment sorted for safety, you can just focus on social connection. So often I remember when I was first going out and trying to build my social skills and network and so on. I mean, half the problem was going to a place that I was unfamiliar with. There's the logistical things, where's the toilet? Who's around me? Where should we sit? Where should we stand? And then there's all the kind of just the uncomfortableness of the strange situation. Are there any safety risks here? Am I welcome here? On and on. All this stuff comes up that's additional to the struggles of learning how to socialize in the first place. So when you've got a place that feels familiar, that's one less thing to worry about. You can just focus on connecting with others, and you have no kind of need or rush to do anything in that situation. When you're at home, you don't have to do anything. And we want to make that feeling occur in places outside of your house. We want to look at breaking rules. And breaking rules is what's required to really build your social connection ability. For you to get out there and create deeper and more meaningful connections and higher quality sexual interactions and all those other things that you guys are interested in, you're going to have to do things different to how you do them right now. And for you to be able to do that, you have to feel safe breaking the rules that you're currently following. By removing the uncomfortable environmental factor, you can break those rules. And that's one of the main things for doing this, one of the main reasons for doing this. And overall, this brings you to the place where you're making socializing about socializing. It's not about going to some place. It's just about another opportunity to meet people. Again, bear in mind, imagine if you could go anywhere and it felt like home. Imagine the difference that would make to your ability to connect socially. We're looking to create that feeling. So what we're looking for here is places where you can socialize, where you can regularly visit and meet new people and practice the skills that you need to practice. The first one that I chose for this was actually a Subway restaurant near my house. Now, the reason I chose this was I just wanted to buy sandwiches to start off. I was obsessed with Subway. But when I went there, I noticed that my communication difficulties were a real problem there. When I'm ordering the types of food, the bread that I want, the meat, the salads, whatever, because at least back when I first started, I was mumbling a lot and quiet. I'd often have to repeat myself. Often the people working there, English was their second language. So unless I was really sort of loud and assertive and clear, they wouldn't hear me properly, and they would make mistakes. And so I started using Subway as a place to practice speaking with confidence. I had to project my voice. I learned that if I tried to talk past them, if I tried to send my voice beyond their body to the back wall, they would hear me properly. That's one of the first times I really quite naturally learned about projection. I started speaking to the wall behind them. I realized I had to articulate each word and deliver it with care. For somebody who doesn't speak English, I can't believe my alarm just went off. For somebody who doesn't speak English, I have to really pronounce each syllable, so I was practicing that. I knew I had to look the person in the eye while I spoke, and on and on. And I started to look forward to going to Subway as my place to practice really projecting. I got a bit of a thrill from, there'd be three people in front of me order their food, and then I'd come booming out and order the food, and they would have no issue putting mine together, whereas everybody else, they're going, what did you say? Which sauce did you want? Sorry, like this. And so I started going there more and more regularly, not just to buy sandwiches, but to practice speaking. Now, as I did this, I noticed there was an effect that occurred when I spoke like this, and that is the people working there engaged with me. The more confidently I spoke, the more they would smile, maintain eye contact, and before long they were starting to throw in extra things. Not just extra things in my sandwich, but they were starting to to ask me questions, to make comments about what was going on. They were starting to talk beyond the transactional conversation. And this is when I really first created a kingdom. When I started talking to them beyond what was needed to make the sandwich. I started talking to staff members beyond what was needed to have a transaction. And so this is a great principle when it comes to creating a kingdom, going to a place where you are regularly interacting with staff, people who are generally going to be at least diplomatic, if not friendly, and allowing yourself to kind of build the conversation beyond what is needed to purchase whatever it is you're purchasing. So you might be at a cafe, there might be one you go to every morning for coffee, there are places that you go to for lunch, there's places where you regularly buy your groceries or your clothing. There might be, as part of your work, you might have to engage with a certain supplier regularly. A place where it's very easy to just stick to the basics required to make a transaction. These kind of places where you regularly visit, you have to have transactional conversations anyway, are great places to start kingdom building. Because all you have to do is take it beyond the transactional conversation. That's how it begins. Now, what I mean by that is simply a place where start again. So what I mean by having a non-transactional conversation is, let's say I'm at Subway and I'm buying my sandwich. All I have to do is talk about anything that is not related to sandwiches. That's all I have to do. And in this particular case, for those of you who are familiar with the Brojo 3X model of conversation, all I have to do is get curious about something that's true and express it. And so I started doing this. And at first I did this in a very sort of safe and casual and kind of superficial, not superficial, but, high level type way. I might comment on the temperature in the air. I might say, God, it's a bit cold in here. I might comment on something I noticed, like, wow, you guys are really busy. I might, they might ask me how it's going instead of giving the transactional answer of fine, yeah, good. I might say something like, wow, I'm actually a bit tired today. I've been working hard this week. I just started putting a little bit more into these conversations beyond what was needed to just get through. On that note, saying something like, how's it going? All that's still part of the transactional stuff. Saying thank you, please, that's all transactional. We're talking about going beyond that and talking as a one human to another, not customer to, supplier or whatever. This is how it begins. It can be as simple as that. Like within a year, I walked into that Subway and I was the king. They all knew me. They'd start making my sandwich automatically. They knew exactly what I wanted. And the whole time while they're making it, we'd just be joking around. I knew their names. They knew about my work. One of them had even come and had a coaching session with me. I knew about their studies. I could tell you right now, the guys who worked there, what they were studying and all that sort of stuff while they were working their way through school. I learned about what their manager was like. Turns out he was a bit of a prick. I had real conversations, and then what would happen, I'd be waiting in line. I'd have these conversations with the people waiting in line, complete strangers now, because they were in my Subway. I was welcoming my guests to my place because that's how it felt. I remember this one time I was standing in line, I was really busy, and there was a guy at the front complaining because, things were taking too long, and there was a girl standing next to me, a mother with her daughter. I just remember casually turning to her and saying, oh, should we go help out? Should we just jump back there and make some sandwiches? And I remember this because it was just such a casual, natural thing for me to say at that moment. And it was the most, up until that point, it was just the most natural I'd ever spoken to a complete stranger. And it made me realize that if I feel at home somewhere and I speak to anyone as if they're my best friends, they'll almost always feel really comfortable talking to me, as she did, So this is where I realized that you build that sort of kingdom, that place where you feel really comfortable by going there frequently and engaging with the staff. You can learn how to speak to strangers as if they're not strangers. And that's when you'll slowly build up the realization that no one really is a stranger. You can connect with anyone at any time. So how to choose these sort of places? Not only can you choose places you regularly attend and frequent, but choose places that are likely to be full of your kind of people. Now, in that case, the subway isn't a great example. There's just a massive range of humanity going through subway. But you can start to create kingdoms where your kind of people typically go. So this could be hobbies. This could be specialist food places. It could be clubs and bars if you're an extrovert. It could be libraries and markets if you're an introvert. A place you're going to regularly go where there are staff that you can regularly engage with and build up non-transactional conversations with. And places where you're going to go frequently and you're going to be there so often, and the environment, the context won't change. So you'll just get more and more comfortable and it will feel like home. It will feel like your place. Now, bear all in mind, you don't need to feel like you're at home to socialize. This is just about removing the barriers that come up when you feel like a stranger. Because ultimately, this is all building up, like I said earlier, to you getting to a place where everywhere feels like home, because everywhere is home. And where everybody feels like a potential friend, because there is really no such thing as a stranger. We're all humans. We're all the same species. We can connect. So you're looking for that. And in particular, a really great one is one where there are regulars. So either staff, like people you're going to see there every time that you can build up with, that you can get more and more vulnerable and honest with over time as you build your sort of 3x social skills. Or like in the case of, say, certain bars and things like that, there's actually regular patrons, there's regular visitors. Markets are good for this as well. You'll often start seeing the same people there. Dance, social events, these kind of things, where you can just, if you're somebody who struggles building connections with strangers, you don't have to get it all right in one go. I see this so often, like people get really needy with socializing because they go to places and it's just, I have to make it work with this person or they'll leave my life forever. And that's going to be a really high pressure way to be trying to socialize. Whereas if you're going, okay, all I got to do this time is say hi. And then next week I'll say, how are you going? You can build up knowing that this person isn't going anywhere too quickly. You don't have to get it right this one time. So how to get started? First is choose a couple of places. You want at least 3 a week that you're visiting. Something where there's staff and regulars there. Look in your own life right now. It could be a supermarket, it could be a cafe, it could be anywhere pretty much where you buy food. It could be hobbies and meetups. It could be bars and clubs. It could even be outdoor places like parks or beaches. One place that you're going to go regularly, at least once a week, if not more, and a place where there is a regular flow of people that you can slowly build up connection with, especially if you're quite socially shy or anxious. A place that has friendly staff, like a clothing store or a mall, a place where they actually paid to be friendly with you, so it's going to be a nice warm start for you while you overcome your different sort of fears and insecurities. Start by getting to know the staff and the regulars, and the way you do this is really simple. Every time you're there, try to say a little bit more than what you'd usually say to complete a transaction. And I don't mean going there with lines and contriving something and being fake, but just speaking your mind a little bit more, sharing a little bit more about yourself. Talk about how you feel, what you notice, what you've observed. You walking into a place and going, wow, it's busy in here today. It's more than just being like, yes, that shirt is $4.95. Can you please ring it through? You can go to a gas station. Make sure that if you're going to be getting petrol, go to the same petrol station every time and get to know the staff there. And when you walk up to the counter to pay for your gas or whatever, just take a moment to stop and notice something true and then share that. You look busy. I feel tired. It's fucking cold today. Anything that's beyond. And each day you can add a little bit more until one day you're having like a 5 or 10 minute conversation. I went to, what's interesting is after a while you don't need to be going to the same place. You can just do this anywhere. I remember last year I went to a gas station and I can't remember how it happened, but I went from buying gas to me and the guy who worked there. We went off to the side and we were talking tattoos. We were like designing his next tattoo and choosing where he was going to do it. And there was this massive queue of people waiting to pay for their gas. He was the only guy working there. We totally fucked up their day, which I have no problem with at all. Fuck them. Um, and for this to be a complete stranger, to be like me actually giving him advice on what he's going to get tattooed on his body, that comes from this kind of build up of like everywhere feeling like home. So you just build up, you go there regularly, you get to know the people who are the easiest to get to know, and you just share a little bit more every time. The next thing you can do is you can start inviting people to come with you to these kingdoms. So if you got your favorite coffee store, whenever you're going out to see a new friend or going on a date, take them to your favorite place. The guy who runs Brojo with me, Mike, he's notorious for this in terms of like he'll have a favorite cafe and he'll have all his dates there, and he dates fairly regularly. And so when he goes there, he's the king. Everybody knows his name, they know what he likes, and so on and so forth. And then like they sort of give him the sly wink or whatever about him being there with yet another girl or whatever. It's this kind of feeling where he's home. And so he gets to be really comfortable and just focus on getting to know his date and sharing and observing her without having to also getting to know the place, which is a big distraction. And you can almost guarantee that his comfort in being there will be expressed and felt by the girl that he's with. She'll be more comfortable because he feels more comfortable, which allows them, it's not a manipulation, it just allows them the opportunity to be open and honest and real with each other and maybe experience a real connection. Mike's great for kingdoms. Not only does he have sort of places like bars and cafes, but also there's his favorite park to walk around, his favorite walking track on that park, so that everything just feels like home to him. So think of this, like I said, as a practice tool. You build up these kingdoms, and eventually you'll learn what it feels like to have the mindset of everywhere being your home and how much that helps you with socializing. What I'd also say, I mentioned bars and clubs a few times, but I actually think going to a place just to socialize, now this is a bit of a caveat here, and I hope I'm not contradicting myself, but going to a place just to socialize, or in particular, going to a place to find someone, like a date, trying to find a relationship, can really bring a lot of neediness to this. And this is why I like choosing kingdoms that aren't typically a social place to go, because then I'm really just practicing socializing. I'm not going there to get anything, because I don't expect anyone to want to make friends or want to date me when I'm in one of these places. They're just trying to like get their food and go, or they're just trying to hire the whatever. So that really helps, again, just take the pressure off and help you to start breaking the rules you have around where and when you can socialize. Because if you keep trying to create new kingdoms, like every time you get comfortable with the place, you go and create a new one, eventually you'll start to see, and it will become really obvious to you, that everywhere is a social opportunity if there are people around. There are very few exceptions. Maybe in a public toilet or in a funeral, there's a few places where trying to meet new people and make new friends is not exactly the best thing to be doing. But everywhere else, on the train, public transport's a great place to create a kingdom. If you're taking the same bus or the same train every day, and you're surrounded by the same people every day, just say hi to them. Just get it started. Just go from standing there looking awkward out the window waiting for your next stop to like looking at someone saying, "Oh, you're always on this bus, aren't you? Hey, I'm Dan." It's as simple as that. It really is. You don't have to take that conversation any further. You don't have to sit next to them and pressure them into getting to know you. You can just throw something out their way, one little observation, one little piece of you. If they take it, good. If they don't, that's fine. They can go sit somewhere else, whatever. You can make this really low pressure. All it is you going beyond whatever the agreed upon maximum is at that stage. So go and see, and in particular, try to break the rules. Like a lot of people tell me that there's certain places you can't do it, like the gym. Or people don't want to socialize there, they're there to work out. Yes, some people feel that way. But other people, they're wearing their best gear, they've got no headphones on, they're looking around at everyone. They do want to meet some people. And others who look like they don't would want to meet you if you were a good fit for them. It doesn't mean that you, like, halfway through someone's bench press, you go sit on them and say, "Hey, want to be friends?" You don't have to do that. You can just throw out like, hey, bro, I see you here all the time. What's up? That's it. You don't have to really go into somebody's space and ruin their day, but you can challenge the idea that people don't want to socialize with you. This is just your fear speaking. There is no valid scientific evidence behind what you're believing, right? It's just your fear going, no, be comfortable and alone for the rest of your life. It's easier. So really to sum up, choose a few places, frequent them regularly, start having non-transactional conversations, and get so used to the environment that it feels like home, and get so familiar with the regulars there that they feel like family, and you'll start to see your social ability really develop. So thank you guys for staying along and paying attention, and I'll see you next time for the next Brojo Online. Cheers.